Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. For the next few minutes, we're going to dive deep into this exciting topic about reinventing wealth management with Wealth Management Accelerator powered by GenAI. We have Ankur from Publicis Sapient on the stage. Please welcome Ankur.
Hey everyone. Hey everyone. So we built this for one of our wealth management clients, and we extended it as an accelerator. So I'm going to cover why we did this, and then we'll cover how we did this. And AWS has been one of the key technologies how we have applied it. So giving you a quick context on wealth, if you are not from financial services background, typically there are different, you can say, areas like sales enablement, client servicing, and account and performance. Now, sales and enablement, all these capabilities which you are looking at here, they are built for different clients. There is a customization angle to these and all. So when we started looking at how we apply GenAI to different, you can say, capabilities, then we started going deep dive into like how we can create a business value out of GenAI first, rather than just creating something out of curiosity, right? So our key drivers were business value, that how we bring and elevate the user experience across. So we picked up sales as a first journey, sales enablement as a first journey. So I'm going to share what we have done for the sales enablement part. And then, like I said, one of the key challenges which we typically face is how do we increase lead conversion, right? And if you talk to any wealth advisors, that's their key challenge in the starting phase of the journey, that how do I convert my leads into a sales proposition, right? So when we started looking into it, that how we can apply GenAI, right? That how we can bring that conversation rate forward or make it more meaningful for the advisor. So we started looking into these key principles, that how do we apply that GenAI mindset, as well as how do we embed it into their wealth management platform itself. Because we didn't want our customers to say, oh, throw away my existing wealth platform and then create something from scratch, right? So we wanted to augment the existing platform, and that's why we are calling it as embedded experience platform. Right? So looking at what we have started targeting as the matrix first, that which matrix we are targeting is that how we can reduce not only the total cost of developing such accelerators, as well as how we can bring in, so there is a mix of business value, as well as you can see that what is the ROI of the GenAI, right? We have been hearing that now GenAI, we have to put it into the production and all. So we started that, okay, this is the list of ROI which we want to achieve, right? Not that we have achieved it. How do we measure these ROIs is a separate conversation. It's contextual to each client, but our main focus area when we started this journey was how do we bring this ROI, right? So we did I'm going to share, considering the interest of time, we're gonna focus on 4 case studies. So I'm going to skip a few slides and make sure that we all understand what we are trying to do in these 4 areas. So like I said, the lead conversion was the first area which we targeted. So what are the key challenges when people are, when wealth advisors are looking into that, how do I engage with my clients, right? So personalization is one of the things which advisors are looking for. When I say personalization, it means for every client, we need to ensure that you communicate in what the client, that particular client is looking for. It cannot be generic, right? So that's one area. The second element is how do I augment that context which I'm going to pass on to the GenAI with all the relevant material. And you heard in the keynote that how the Bedrock and all can do this RAG as well as other knowledge bases, right? That how do we augment that right context? Otherwise, you will not have meaningful result, right? So that's what we were trying to do. And then the quicker turnaround is what we have seen in the early stages of implementing this. The 25 to 30% have clients, prospects got converted into client for advisors. So that's how the impact this lead accelerator has made to the journeys for some of the wealth advisors. We have implemented this. The second area is the client servicing. So lead, once it gets converted into a client, then then your main job as an advisor begins, right? That you are creating a financial plan for the client, you are doing all those sort of transactions and interactions which the client needed. So we started looking from the top down that what GenAI can bring value again from servicing the client. And as you heard in the keynote today also, is that there are many touch points which you can say client servicing, chatbots, service agents and all. So we also built a service agent powered by Bedrock just to make sure that the client information is summarized easily for the customer service agent, and then you can customize this as per that particular context of the client. So that's and I'll share how part of it, how we have done it as well, right? So the third area which we also heard today is that summarization of the market research. We heard that in a keynote that how Moody's and all these other research companies are publishing their reports and all. So advisors have to read a lot of reports. So what we are trying to do is we are making their life easier by summarizing these reports in a very easy format and very, you can say, in a convenient format for them so that they can easily consume and they're ready to have that conversation with the client. So with these three key features in our initial release, we started the journey almost a year back, and we kind of started building out what should be our architecture. So before deep diving into the architecture, we wanted to make sure that we have the right principles in place. So as you might have seen, that data is always the foundation. The cloud is the foundation what we can do. So we built these different, you can say, principles, and we can unpack all these principles when we meet separately on the booth and all. But for GenAI, what we have done is that we wanted to ensure that even in the early stages, we do have certain things taken care of, right? So these were our key requirements. We didn't want, we wanted minimal hallucination. We wanted to ensure that grounding is done properly. We wanted to ensure that the security guardrails, because for financial services, guardrails, like we heard in the Bedrock, it provides a guardrails framework and all. So we provided optionality to our clients. They can use Bedrock, they can use other solutions. We also experimented with Nemo guardrails, which you might have heard about. It's an open source guardrails framework. So the whole intention is how do we ensure that these key capabilities are thought through from the start, right? Rather than rethinking it at a later stage. So considering all that aspects, we came up with a reference architecture. And the reference architecture, the top layer, as you can see, the experience plays a vital role here. So the experience is, and what we ensure that the experience is customizable as per the wealth platform, what you are trying to do. And then we have microservices in between, which are domain-specific microservices, as you can see, for portfolio management, for advisor and client servicing. All those areas, we have different microservices. And we made an assumption that that services can vary for different clients or different. So all we need is orchestration layer, which can orchestrate for GenAI across that layer. And that's why we built a common orchestration layer so that we can communicate and do the orchestration between these microservices. And the data plays a big role here. And most of our clients are either on Databricks, Snowflake, and Amazon as well. So we needed to ensure that we support these platforms. So our platform is, our accelerator is, you can integrate with these platforms. That's our reference architecture. And then we started looking into is that what are the key building blocks, right? And you can see some of the AWS solutions are playing that role. But our, similar to the keynote, what you heard from Matt, is that we wanted to make sure that you have optionality, that you have the right to choose what technology you want to use, but these are the building blocks you need, right? You need a prompt workflow, you need a experience layer, you need an integration layer, you need a layer which can ensure the security guard railing part. So, and a machine learning, now we are very excited to hear that SageMaker has the whole universal studio, right? So we're going to extend this to SageMaker Studio to make sure we do everything in one single stack. But at the time of doing this, we didn't have that. So we use SageMaker for training the custom LLM models, or even use or consume what models you already have. And then we started looking at different LLMs, right? So we evaluated Anthropic Claude, we evaluated Amazon Titan at that point of time, we even integrated with OpenAI and others, right? So, but the intent was that give you an option that which LLM you can choose as per your enterprise. That's the core foundation, that providing the optionality to you. And then what we ended up building is that we wanted to make sure that the RAG, RAG which you have seen, it's something which is, it's very easy to launch the early version of the RAG. But what we have observed when we were going through this last 1 year journey is that to make a RAG production ready, you need to ensure that there are many different aspects of RAG is where you need to make sure that those are taken care of. So if you look at these steps here, and I'll walk through a quick journey of how the request goes through the entire flow of it. So when the user starts a conversation with the customer service agent for advisors, so the prompt, the prompt is definitely customizable. We are also making sure that the dynamic prompting is embedded there, so that the prompt is not a static prompt. So the prompt changes. That's one aspect we have seen, that doing the static prompting is also a counter-effective measure, right? So we wanted to ensure that you can customize and you can make a prompt dynamic. So the first step is they are determining the user intent, that what is user trying to do, whether the user is or the advisor is trying to get, say, the transaction summary, transactions insight or research insight, or the advisor is trying to convert a prospect into a client. So based on the first thing you need to do is that you need to identify the intent. And as we have heard in today's keynote, that there is definitely a better support now in Bedrock. So we did it initially in a custom way in LangChain and all. So the user intent, once you figure out the user intent, but based on the user intent, you need to pull the conversation history. Now you can use any kind of NoSQL database or Postgres or any, we've used DynamoDB for that to store the conversation history. But conversation history plays a very important role, right? Because if you don't have the context, then it's going to hallucinate, right? So, and the other thing which we have learned across the journey is sometimes the conversation history is too large, right? So what we did over there is the compression techniques also we have applied. So when you are getting the chat history, you try to compress the history by summarizing that output. And then there are different summarization techniques, and then there are different compression techniques you can apply on that. So once you got the summary of the chat context, then what you need to do is that we need to put that context back into your prompt, right? So that, and that too has to be dynamic, because the LLM doesn't know about your client, right? Right now we are not fine tuning, in this case, the LLM. It's the RAG application. The third step, what we are trying to do here is, if you look at it, that once you summarize it, then we are trying to create the question which is more suitable for the LLM. Now, that's an important lesson learned. What we have experienced is that advisors might not ask the right questions, because in fact, we as a human might not ask the right questions. So what we try, whenever we ask a question, that question might have some other meaning. So we put another logic in the whole flow, that use a multi-question, like from a single question, create multiple sub-questions, and then try to do the vector search for all of these questions, and then summarize the input from that. That's a key lesson learned, that what we do, you don't want to say that, okay, the question is a very linear question. So you have now much more advanced RAG technique applied, that you are doing multi-query, multi-question algorithm, which is in place in step number 5. Now the step number 5, there is again, after learning our lesson, we put the confidence score check. Now why you are putting a confidence score check is to ensure that the question and the answer to the question is grounded. So and that could be a custom model, and that's the flexibility we have provided, that custom model can figure out that what is the confidence score. We have tested also other models, like Cohere also provide a re-ranking algorithm. So you can get the confidence score, and based on that confidence score, you can decide whether I have to go back to refining the question, whether I have to go back to step number 2 and 3, or I should proceed further. So based on that confidence score, say it's more than 80% or more than 70, that threshold also you can decide, and we made it configurable. So now that you have moved through the step number 5, now you are ready to do the question processing, and then you have a vector search and semantic search in place, right? So the semantic search, once you get the results, right? So the other important aspect is what we heard today is that guardrails. So in financial services, guardrails play a major role, right? That what you are answering to the user can have a financial implication to the to our clients. So what the guardrail framework, we need to make sure it's rock solid. So we built a lot of guardrails, you can say rules, and that rule is customer specific. It could be different for you. Say that if someone is asking for a transaction history from some other user's transactions, you are going to deny that request. So all those guardrails are checked in step number 7. Now the other thing is that you don't want to delay the response a lot because it impacts the latency and the response time. So you do the basic guardrails check over there, and then you retrieve the documents, and then finally you are doing that multi-query retrieval again, just to again, based on our lesson learned, that we are trying to make sure the quality of response has been improved. So then you get the final response back to the user, and that's what the flow gets finished, right? So it's a summary of all the complex algorithm which goes behind the scene, and every step what you are seeing here can be customized and can again be further enhanced. And as we have learned today is that AWS is launching a lot of those capabilities, so we can integrate, whether it's AWS or other solution, we can integrate those solutions. So last but not least is that our solutions focus was the user experience, right? Because advisors, they are very busy. They need to ensure that the experience is something which is aligned to their expectations. So we ensured that we followed principles of human-centric design, ensured that the personalization and ethical and all those different aspects have been taken care of. So I'm not the experienced guy. I know that we have the team who build this, where they have make sure the design system is in place. So we already have this design system is in place and all that. And the roadmap for this product is we are now building it, the similar sort of accelerator for other financial domain. It can be the non-financial domain, because as you have seen and observed in the process of building RAG will remain same across. But what differs is how you customize those steps, how you customize the data elements, how to customize. So I'll take 5 minutes for any questions. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you so much.